Hello, and welcome to another episode of Inspired Good Fat Life. And I am so inspired to be with our guest today, Kathy King of Kathy King Strategies. And I swear, every time I'm in the room with her, it's like there's an energy and a vibration that is just almost a ruckus. So welcome, Kathy, to our show.
Thank you.
And so how's your world today?
Thank you, Sherri. First off, I'm just such a big fan. Like, I fangirl whenever I'm around you, and ditto. The energy is just always off the charts whenever we're around each other. So
that said, you reminded me today that we actually kind of have a book in the works, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so let's start there with what's the title for our book?
Oh my gosh. This was months ago. We got together and just, one of those moments where like, you know what, let's just catch up. And the conversation just kept leading to that we both have lived this life of, well, who made that rule? Who made that rule? Why do I have to follow that rule? So that I really think that we need to take that somewhere.
We do. Yeah. And every time I hear, well, it's twofold. Every time a situation presents, right, where you just go, who made that rule? It's so interesting. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So your life has been a little more non-conventional,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And mine has too, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about you is your intentionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that a little bit.
I am so proud of the fact that I've lived a very unconventional life, especially, so I grew up in Tennessee. You can't hear it in my voice. I'm very Michigan now. But as a little girl, I grew up in Tennessee, and I was, I grew up in that very traditional Southern household, stay-at-home mom. My dad worked 9 to 5, was put in dance classes when I was 2.5 years old. And, I was a little ballerina in the house. And my life's path, given the upbringing I have, was to grow up, go to college, meet a boy, get married, have babies, take care of the house, probably be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm so grateful. My upbringing was that way, the way my mom just took care of us. But I knew from a really, really young age that wasn't the life for me. I don't know how a little kid just knows that, but I knew in my guts from like young that I didn't want to be a mom. I knew that I wanted to be a dancer, and I wanted to be a dance teacher. And I had, moving forward in my life, we moved around quite a bit. We landed in Michigan. I had a high school counselor. I was just telling my students this the other day, because I just want them to know that they can make the path that makes sense to them. I remember having a high school counselor. You do those career assessments and all that. And I'm going to be a dance teacher. I know that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to, inspire people and help people. I don't know. You probably need a backup plan, or you're probably not going to make that much money doing that. And I knew in my heart that didn't make sense. Like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And thankfully, I had parents who were super supportive. And, the moment I knew I wanted to pursue that path, my parents were just like, okay, how can we help you? And how can we help you be the best at that so that it is a viable career option for you? It's turned out to be super great. But for a lot of people around me, they didn't get it. I was the kid in school. I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Right. That's really, my dad was like that. Like, since he was 6 years old, he knew he wanted to be a doctor, and hell or high water, that's what he was going to do. And that's what he did. Yeah. Right. In spite of some circumstances that were challenging, he just did. And it was really hard for people around him to, I don't even know why, but I think there is some, what is that?
There's something about, it's almost like you're being defiant if you stand up and say, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to be, or this is the path that I'm going to take. And it's different than the status quo. It's different than, like, I didn't go to college right out of high school. Oh my God. It's like, blasphemy. And it's, even though that was the right path for me, but people can't understand that in general, not all people, obviously, but it's like this act of defiance against society,
what the plan is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so many people grow up not knowing what they're going to be when they grow up. And that's fine. I think it's great to explore and figure things out. But when you are that kid that's growing up and you do know with no doubt, I mean, I was 8 years old and I looked at my parents and said, I'm going to be a dance teacher when I grow up. Not I want to be, like I am going to be. And I think that is just so against the norm for most people. And so then it's, I think people just can't wrap their head around it sometimes.
Around that.
Like, how dare you be so confident?
Well, that is interesting because it is a sense of confidence, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I went to school, I wanted to be I did want to be a ballet dancer, and I wanted to be a concert pianist, and those things that girls want to be, I guess. And but I did want to go into textiles, clothing and design, and it was kind of like, okay, you can do that, but you have to get a business degree too. And that was really smart advice because it turned out I just fell in love with the income statement. It's like, I still love the income statement, and I still love fibers and fabrics, But the truth is, as we've kind of talked about, you can do all of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's you look at what you love to do, and if people are open to it and supportive, you can figure out how to have exactly create life exactly as you want it. Mm-hmm. And I would even go to say, and if you find that way of thinking, that intentionality, it actually comes out better than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we met at the Brighton Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm. Best place on earth.
I do. It's Good Fat Life's world headquarters,
yes,
right?
I'm so excited about that.
Right? So, but every time I say that, I just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But the thing that I think is so important about that is it's a community. Right? It's a community where you and I are both teachers. We're educators, right? And so we like to meet our students where they are. Hey, what do you want to create, right? How can I help you create and be your best self? And the community at the Brighton Lighthouse is that on steroids.
Yes.
Right? And so to me, I guess maybe that's the first thing starts with awareness of what you want, and you don't even have to know what it is you want. You just can even start with what you don't want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
right?
That's a great place to start.
Because that I find that lots of times people aren't clear about what they want, but they know what they don't want, right? So we can say, okay, well, you don't want this, so you must want something that looks like this. But in that community, there's just such a collaborative, shared camaraderie, and there's some other words for that.
It's this beautiful culture, like it's such a beautiful place where people can land to feel safe to be themselves. Judgment-free, authentic.
And their attitude is, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? I was telling you, we went to the Henry Ford Museum yesterday to see the Julia Childs exhibit. And there was so much I just didn't know about her. But one of the biggest things was, she was expected to, go to college, get married a rich guy, have kids, run the household. And she's like, that's not what I want. And so fortunately, she found somebody who shared her values like you did. And they moved to France. And suddenly it was like, well, I can be who I am. And one thing led to the next. And I love that idea that it was so inspiring, because as we're building Good Fat Life and you're building your dance community and your consulting company, it's just, I don't know, it's so inspiring to see people that's just not had clear on where they were going, but yet knew that they were going to take one step to the next step to the next step.
100%. And it's, it's so important that I always say, like, people like me find people like you and community where we feel supported and not looked at like, oh, you're this strange creature that, you want to live this unconventional life. And I mean, gosh, if I had $1 for every time I've been judged for not wanting to be a mother, I'd be filthy rich. I mean, it's incredible the way that people just feel inclined to lay their judgment on you. But when you find a community where you can just show up and be yourself and be celebrated for being yourself and be lifted up for that, it's amazing. And it's life-changing. And I feel like what you're doing with Inspired Good Fat Life is showing people that, they can walk their path and they can pursue a good fat life and not be looked at as an alien, as something that's strange. which I think is a little sad that sometimes pursuing health and happiness and well-being looked at as being strange, but status quo is a real thing. And it's, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday about health, and actually it was about fasting, which I'm super interested in. But he mentioned like a statistic that 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. And that's average. That's normal. And that's so sad.
I mean, it's mind numbing in a way, right?
Yeah.
That's where our culture is. And so you just look at, if you are in that space, and I'll be the first to admit I could lose some pounds, and we're working through it on not on diet, but on what am I doing, or what is contributing to some extra weight. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing that holistically with a functional nutritionist and blood tests and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited about it, right? Because I want to do it for the right reasons. Yeah. Just so, my reasons are because I have these beautiful little grandchildren, and lots of things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. Like even coming out of the Julia Child's exhibit yesterday, it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so much exciting things to do in the world.
Yeah. And it's too like, I heard a quote the other day. I'm a quote junkie and a podcast junkie and all the things. So I heard a quote the other day, and it was something along the lines of, this is going to go a little deep, but stay with me. If you know someone or love someone who has experienced grief, hold them close, because those people love so much more wildly. They embrace life in such a different way. And that has been something that has, so in 2011, my mom was diagnosed with very aggressive lung cancer. It was, the doctors were, it's slim chances.
Wow.
Surgery, radiation, chemo, all the things. And today she's here with us.
She's
eating pizza. We went on a pizza date the other day. We call her our miracle mama, because she's been through so much health-wise. And so that was really, 2011, I was in my 20s. I was still at that age where it's like, life, I'm invincible. I can do anything. But when you're hit with grief in that kind of way, and you're hit with how short life really is, and I had experienced loss. I lost my grandparents. I had lost a couple of friends, but this was different. It's my mom, and you're faced with that. It's you really see super crystal clear how short life is. Mm. And I had already been living with some level of intention up to that point, because I was sitting high on, like an early peak of my dance career, and doing amazing things and doing the things I wanted to do, but also not as confident as I am now to really just live fully the way I want to. And I think that when you're faced with grief in that way, and you're faced with how short life is, you start to go, oh my gosh, there's so many amazing things that I want to do. And there's so many cool things I want to do in life. And it's like, okay, let's do them. I'm going to book a flight now, or I'm going to call that friend, or I'm going to do the thing, because it's so short. And then losing my father almost 2 years ago opened a whole nother door of, well, wait a minute. Like, why would I waste 1 second of time doing something that's not meant for me?
That is so,
right?
And my husband fell and broke his wrist a month ago. And it's been really interesting just how not having part of your body, right? How suddenly it changes everything, but how it happens so quick. And then it reinforces, the most important thing is our health. And we say that all the time, and it sounds so cliche and trite, but man, have something happen.
It's the only thing I know to be true, is that we have to really focus on this, it's such a buzzword, but this like holistic view of our health and wellness. And the money comes and goes, the jobs come and go. But at the end of the day, it's, are you waking up every day doing things that fulfill you and doing things that make you feel content? I'm a fan of being content. It's kind of, I'm a part of several networking groups and masterminds and things. And now that I'm doing business and entrepreneurship coaching, in addition to teaching dance, I'm around more people that are very ambitious, which I love. I'm an ambitious person, but there's this kind of, either you love contentment or you hate it. And it's like, some people are just so, well, you should never be content, because you should always be striving for the next thing. And it's, but contentment is so beautiful to me that you can want to do more things in life, but be content with where you are right now and just love your life right now.
I love that you said that too. It's kind of like gratitude, right? And so I love that Acres of Diamonds story. You know, the have you heard that? And that, so I feel like I live in acres of diamonds. And for people who haven't heard the story, it's this guy lives on a farm. He's a farmer and he wants to be a millionaire, and he ends up selling his farm and leaving his family and traveling the world to find his riches. And it turns out the people who bought the farm found the diamond mine that he was living on, right? And I agree with you. There's that sense of, I can be so grateful for everything that I have, whatever the circumstances are. You know, some really beautiful things have come out of my husband breaking his wrist. I mean, but it doesn't mean that I don't aspire to do more.
Right.
So I agree. And so that there's just different schools of thought. And
totally. And when your heart's in the right place, when what you're doing, you're living a really mission-focused life and a really purpose-driven, Inspired Good Fat Life is a very purpose-driven organization. It's not just I'm creating something to make oodles and oodles of dollars, and which I think we all deserve to make as much money as we want to make. But when your heart's in the right place and you're what you're doing for work, for your job, is super meaningful and impactful. It's like, everything just starts to fall into place, and you can be ambitious and want to do the next thing, but you can also just be content and wake up and go, oh, my life is awesome.
Right. And I'm really excited about doing this next new thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's both. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because there is that sense, and it's lovely to be, we go back to Brighton Lighthouse, it's lovely to be in a community that understands it from that perspective. Yeah. Right? It's not, it just feels good.
Yeah. I know, it's a community of creators and business people and mothers and fathers and sisters and daughters. Like there's just every type of person is walking through the door, and
age
all age. I mean, I ran it's called Empowered Entrepreneurs Coaching Program. It's a group coaching program for women who own businesses, have started their own businesses. And I ran my last round in the spring, and I had participants from ages 32 to 73.
Oh, wow.
In the same program.
In the same program.
So, oh my gosh. And just every week we'd get together and just learn from each other. And it's so awesome.
It is. And that's, and it's been interesting because I've had younger people say to me, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see older, we don't say old, older people like you, so excited about what you're doing, because it takes the pressure off of me having to feeling like I have to get it right now in my 30s. Like, I have to get it right now, because if I don't, I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to ruin my life. And it's like, no, right?
It's really that just, I don't know, the one step at a time, one day at a time kind of thing. It's like, I have a vision for my life and I see what it can be, but it's not, if I don't get there, my life is over. This would be some cool stuff to accomplish. Let's just do it one day at a time and see how close we get. And it's going to pivot, and it's going to move, and it's going to swivel, and things are going to change. I mean, I never thought I'd become a caretaker of my mother. And here we go, almost 2 years ago, boom, life completely changed. You can either freak out and, just have self-pity for yourself, or you can go, okay, let's go. What do we got to do?
And I have developed incredible compassion, right, for people who are caretaking. It's because it's a big job.
It's a big job.
and to have community around you to support you as you're doing that is another important thing. Yeah. Right? So it all comes back to community and intention, I think.
Absolutely. I really think everything comes back to intention. If you're really intentional, and I mean, like, not just kind of a thought in your head, journal about it, talk about it, meditate about it, really being intentional about the path that you're trying to carve and the impact you want to make. I think it's so important that we I mean, I think at the end of the day, we only have ourselves and we have to think about ourselves. But the more we think about others, and I read something that was, the best people on the planet are the people who, or the most beautiful people are the ones who bring beauty to the lives of others. And I think the more that we're really intentional about how we can lift other people up and inspire people and help people and love people, oh my gosh, like your life is going to be so fulfilled. And, on your last day, when you go to sleep that last time, your whole life is just this beautiful story. And you've questioned who made that rule.
Who made that?
Often.
Who
made that rule that I have to live this way or that way. And
yeah. Another one of my favorites is I'm not on that committee.
I'm taking that.
That's been very helpful. It's
that's
like
a good one.
somebody said, I'm like, I'm not on that committee.
I love that. I'm definitely stealing. There you go. That's so funny.
So what would you say, what would you say for somebody who's just like, my life really isn't quite where I want it to be? Where would you suggest that they start?
I always like to ask the question of, if money was no issue, money and time, no issue, what would you do? What lights you up? What makes you feel happy? And there's always an answer. It might take a minute to get there, but everyone has an answer. And that doesn't necessarily need to become someone's career path, but it's a good place to start, because I think that the more you're doing the things that light you up, the happier you're going to be. And the happier you are, the more open and creative your mind is going to be, and you'll be able to find a path that's right for you. So I always like to start with that. Like, if money was no issue, if you could just wake up and do this every day, what would you do?
What would you do?
Have fun with it. Like, dream a little.
And I find that even that thought, if you have that thought, right? So then when a circumstance presents that it's not your first choice, right?
Yeah.
You can go, okay, I'm just going to go hang out over here for a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to, plant those trees or bushes or whatever it is, make this beautiful, whatever. Then it shifts, right? Because you literally release that dopamine in your body and you feel better, and then the circumstance will shift.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really important that we lean into the things that bring us joy.
Right.
It's like, well, I was actually talking with a client recently since, the pandemic and all of this, of everyone having all this time on their hands and everyone working from home and doing things like that. A lot of people are turning everything that they like to do into a side hustle. And it's like, oh, well, I'm good at this. I might as well make money from it, which is smart. I mean, cool, go get your money, do your things. But also we're kind of losing sight of having hobbies that make us happy and fill us up. And so I think it's important that we have that balance, because when you have, like for me, cooking, I cook every day. Even after I'll teach dance for 8 hours. I'll coach a client in the morning. I'll have to do errands and go check on mom and stuff. And I'll come home and I still want to cook a meal. And that's like my hobby that fills me up. And I think if that's taken away from me, then I'm going to lose that level of joy. Then it's like the rest of my day is all off kilter. You know what I mean? Or gardening or things like that. And so I love to always just check in with people and ask them, like, if you could just do this every day, what would it be?
Right. So just on that, and I've told this story a couple of times. So my grandpa, he was just like a month short of his 90th birthday when I went to see him, and I walk in the door, and this is like 3 days before he passes. He walk in the door and he goes, Sherri Lynn, because he goes, I just saw the most beautiful roast recipe. He goes, oh, I can't wait to tell you about it, right? And he hadn't been in a position to cook for 10 years.
Yeah.
But still, the idea, he was watching a cooking show, and the idea of being able to cook that roast, prepare that roast and share it with me was so inspiring to him, the joy, right? And so it's not about actually doing it. It's about the idea and just feeling it. And it just lit him up. It was magic.
It's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so, I think, especially with like my generation, these millennials, I tell you, I've been told I'm a geriatric millennial. I'm like right at the top end of it. So I'll embrace it. It's fine. But it's like we get so caught up in the day to day. It's like maybe you had a little argument with your husband in the morning, or maybe, people were walking too slow at the grocery store, someone cut you off in traffic, or, you're backlogged on your emails, and there's so much in the day to day that we can get caught up in. But at the end of the day, like those emails are still going to be there tomorrow. And, it's like, we just need to surround ourselves with more things that bring us joy, like sharing a pot roast recipe or, I think that is easily lost sight of. And that's one of my biggest missions, is to just, like, the kids who take my dance class, I have so much fun in the classroom. Like, we're blasting crazy music. We're singing. I'm a terrible singer. We're just running around. We're having a great time. We're learning. We're getting stronger as dancers. I love to train technical dancers, but to me, can we just have more fun and just experience more joy? Because what else is there?
Yeah.
What else is there? The bills will get paid. The thing, like, I know I'm in a privileged position to say, like, can we just have more fun? But it's also like, everything will work out. Like, everything will work out
from that space.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes I'll say, my husband will go, how can you be so happy about blah, blah, blah? And I'll go, you know what? If throwing things and being, being a witch and crazy made a difference, well, then I'd consider it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it doesn't.
Right.
So if I feel better, I mean, I feel better.
I think, you talked about gratitude, and that's a huge focus. Like, I think gratitude, intention, just embracing the things that make you happy. And that doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. Like, experience your emotions and go through it. But I know personally, for me, a lot of the deep grief and challenging times I've been through, oh my goodness, there's no way. And I was in rough shape for a while, but the only way I got through it was gratitude. And I know that for a fact.
Right.
Because even on your worst days, you can still go, oh, but I'm so grateful for this coffee. Or, maybe someone sends you a text or gives you a call. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful
for this little thing.
Person, or this little, just this little something.
Or that I can sit and stare at this wall.
Yes.
Nobody's bugging me.
Yeah. Right? Oh my goodness. Right. But if you're not intentional of, like, taking note of those things, then you're missing out on a lot. So that's a big mission of mine, is to help people just tune into that.
Well, so it's always so great to talk to you.
I know.
So if people want to find you, where would they find you?
So my website is KathyKingStrategies.com, Kathy with a K. Okay. And I'm super active on Instagram. I love just sharing behind the scenes stuff. So Kathy King Strategies on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. And we'll put your contact in the show notes.
Yeah.
And for a reminder, goodfatlife.com. You can go and get this beautiful magazine. You can order it and get a actual print copy, or you could go to Barnes & Noble and buy it if you live in the Brighton area. And it's digital, and just check us out. We're starting blog posts and events and pop-ups and all kinds of fun, cool things.
Doing all the things. I'll say the magazine makes a great gift. I've been gifting it to friends.
Oh, yes. So. Thank you so much for your support.
Of course. Biggest fan right here.
It is, So on that happy note, we will just say, go out and live your good fat life.